Greetings and welcome back to the Casual Wargamer. Today talking about the Chaos Space Marine preview that we've been given, and about time we started getting these. Yes, a few days behind, bear with me. Chaos Space Marines are one of the armies I actually enjoy playing against quite a bit. They're better than the basic generic Loyalist Space Marines. They generally have better abilities, they've got better unit options, better toys. But generally I get a good game out of anybody playing Chaos Space Marines. For the most part, Black Legion has always been the Legion that people play. Only recently have I faced Word Bearers and Night Lords. The other lesser chapters or legions never really seem to get much interest from people, at least around here. But Black Legion was always the main one. World Eaters used to have a little bit of a following, but now they're their own book, it's kind of a separate deal. And as I say, I quite enjoy playing against these. I used to get smashed repeatedly by a friend of mine that played Black Legion up until about 7th edition. And I really like the models. I really like how Chaos Space Marines play. Too many spiky bits for me, to be honest. I like the smoother Loyalist edges. But we've got a preview from 9th. And forgive me if you get the reflection in my glasses. I've got the screen open here so I can see what I'm doing. The first thing that Games Workshop show us is their army rule. It's called Dark Pacts, which I think is quite nice and flavourful. Basically, it reads, if your army faction is Heretic Astartes, each time a unit with this ability is selected to shoot or fight, it can make a Dark Pact. If it does so, select one of the following abilities for its weapons to the end of the phase. Lethal hits and sustained hits. And lethal hits, if I remember correctly, is automatic wounds on 6s. And sustained hits, I think, is extra hits on 6s. I might be wrong on that. But then each time it makes a Dark Pact after resolving its attacks, it must make a leadership test. If it's failed, the unit takes D3 mortal wounds. I like this. It gives them some nice toys. I do think it's, well, I was about to say it's slightly better than what Loyalist Space Marines get, but I think it isn't. The Loyalist ones get more flexibility. This Dark Pact gives you a little bit more lethality, which I think is really what CSM are after. And I like the flavorfulness of it. Basically, you use this to try and take out something that you need to get rid of. Maybe it's on an objective or it's causing you problems. You can use this Dark Pact in order to basically try and increase your chances of removing an enemy unit. I don't think, like so many other channels have suggested, that you're going to do this pretty much all the time with your units. I think that's very, very bad. Because if you look at the example unit they give you below it, which is the Legionnaires, your leadership is only a 6+. You're doing a leadership test on 2d6, you're failing that 50% of the time, and that's basically a model and a half you could potentially lose. And if you're doing this across your army all the time, you're whittling yourself away before the enemy really gets to do anything to you. So I think this is more likely the ability you're going to use if you've got big squads, or when you really desperately need to take something off of an objective. I think it's kind of nice. It's either a case of the Dark Gods whisk your soul away for being so presumptuous, or maybe you sacrificed a couple of your unit squad mates because you didn't really like them anyway. I like it. Speaking of the Legionnaires, they are a nice unit. You can have up to 10 in a unit. They've got a good variety of weapon options that they can take. Oddly, Veterans of the Long War isn't just Imperium anymore. By this wording, it's whenever they target an enemy unit with a melee attack, they get to reroll wound rolls of 1. And if the enemy unit is on an objective, they reroll the whole wound thing. I think they stand out as being your typical, what I would imagine as a 40k troop choice. No grumbles there. Then we scale down. This is the important bit. Abaddon the Despoiler. Bum, bum, bum. Okay. Abaddon is still very much a beast, and I like that. He's always somebody that I'm scared of on the tabletop. I faced him recently at a local games tournament at my local store in his 9th edition incarnation, and yeah, just ignored him, tried to get on with the mission, and he just walked through most of my army. But I haven't played against Black Legion in many, many years, so it was actually really good to see him on the table. Here, so, shooting attack, nothing special. The Talon of Horus as a gun is basically a slightly more shooty sort of Stormbolter. In melee, he's going to be horrible if you can get him into melee. Draken Yen, the demon weapon, devastating wounds, 8 attacks. He's basically a marine killer. He's going to be wounding on 2s, no save, and dead guy. That's what you're using to deal with other MEQs. The Talon of Horus as a weapon is pretty much more dealing with those orcs and gaunts and guardsmen. 14 attacks. It's like, ow. Hitting on 2s, strength 7, -3, 1 damage. He's going to be... I can see, depending on the points, Abaddon is going to be in pretty much every CSM army, which I'll come to in a minute. I can see him being dominant, at least initially, in 10th edition. Now he has, we've seen this with Guilliman, he has some sort of special war, as it's called, the War Master here. In your command phase, you select one of 3 special abilities. You've got one to give friendly Heretic Astartes within 6 inches re-roll the hit roll. You've got one that gives them a re-roll on leadership and battle shock tests. And then you've got one that I'm not a big fan of. So while the friendly Heretic Astartes infantry or mounted units within 6 inches of him, they get a 4-up invulnerable save. Now obviously you have to pick one, you don't get all of them. You pick the one you want. But I thought the point of this was your leaders, of which he is, are supposed to go in a squad and only boost the squad. Here, you could basically either have him on his own, surrounded by units, or in a unit with others bunched around, and they're all getting, and you could give them all a 4-up invulnerable save. Now, as I have, going on a slight tangent here, faced Custodes quite a bit over the last few months. That awkward, permanent sort of high invulnerable save that they get. I struggle, whether it's shooting or assault, even though it's sort of like 4-up and it's 50-50, I struggle to do anything. If you've got Abaddon running around with in tight formation with blocks of... Because I can see him reasonably being within, let's say, the squad he's in and 2 others, running forward at you with 4-up invulnerable saves is going to be horrible. I really don't want to see that sort of thing in 10th edition. You know, it's going to make it really frustrating for a game where they've tried to lower the AP and what have you. I know they're trying to not get everything killed off straight off the bat, but that just seems a little excessive to me. Admittedly, you're going to have to be really building towards that. You're not going to be using that all the time. You're more likely, I imagine, to be using the other 2. But in my head, I can certainly see certain players that I know sticking Abaddon in their army and running him up the table with some assault-based units, and pretty much trying to plink off any incoming heavy weapons or what have you. It's a bit of a nuisance. I'm not sure I like that, if I'm honest. Even for a character as big and infamous as Abaddon. Abaddon also has a nice ability called Dark Destiny, so every time he makes a Dark Pact and does not fail the leadership test, you're pretty much on a 2+, gaining a CP. And considering CP is supposed to be quite rare or restrictive in 10th, that could be quite impressive. If you can start doing this with Abaddon, giving those abilities to himself and scoring CP. Now, there is one other thing about Abaddon I'm not happy with, I'm not keen on. If you look at the data slate for Guilliman, it specifically says in his faction keywords, Ultramarines. You are only really taking him, well, you're only taking him in Ultramarines. Abaddon doesn't have that. He says Heretic Astartes. He's going to appear, at least for the moment, I'm hoping they change it, in pretty much every CSM list. Pretty much guarantee it. He's going to be appearing with your Word Bearers, your Night Lords, your Iron Warriors, your Red Corsairs, and he shouldn't be. I know he's the sort of like Lord of the Traitor Legions, but that faction keyword should also say Black Legion. He should only be in a Black Legion army. That's the fluff part of my brain kicking in, but I don't like the idea that he can basically jump between legions. I know we don't have specific sub-factions anymore, but that sort of seems wrong to me. Especially if Guilliman is locked to Ultramarines. You know. Anyway, we've not got all the answers, we haven't got all the rules and everything else, that, you know. But if that's the case, that's going to be a bit of a negative niggle for me. It then goes through the various weapons, the Bale Flamer for Helldrakes and the Flesh Metal Guns for Obliterators. And I'm pleased the Bale Flamer is nowhere near as silly as it used to be in previous editions. It's much better now. The Flesh Metal Guns look quite nasty, but then Obliterators are always nasty. And we get a Slaves to Darkness stratagem, Dark Obfuscation. So it gives stealth to a unit, or if they're Nurgle, they can only be seen as a target of range attack if the attacking unit model is within 12 inches. Okay, nothing special for me, but there you go. Okay, so with the exception of those couple of niggles about Abaddon, I like what we're seeing here. I think the Dark Pacts army rule is flavourful for CSM. I like that Legionnaires seem the balance. They are the line. They are your basic sort of troop options. They don't seem silly in any way. They seem quite nicely balanced. Again, odd that Veterans of the Long War is no longer Imperium. It's just melee. Abaddon, absolutely loving him. I think he is going to be, as I say, pardon me, I think he's going to be showing up in a lot of armies, a lot of CSM lists, again, depending on points. He's going to be an absolute beast, and I love it. Just wish that it specifically locked him to Black Legion. Anyway, everything's falling down there. Maybe the Dark Gods don't like me saying that. Anyway, let me know what you think. If you're a Chaos Space Marine player, what are your thoughts on that preview? Are you like me? I mean, I play for the fluff. Do you agree that Abaddon should be locked to Black Legion, or should he be bouncing around various legions and turning up in pretty much every CSM list? You should know he will be. Let me know what you think. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you give me a thumbs up, that would be much appreciated, and hit the subscribe button. And I will see you in the next video. Until next time, take care, guys. Good gaming.